So the first thing we want to talk about is the changes to the Combined Nomenclature 2023. Now, I'm assuming that you know customs classification, that you know about tariff codes, that you know about CN codes and the likes of it. And you also know that every year the EU Commission publishes its Combined Nomenclature, which is a new Annex 1 of the basic regulation of 1987. So there's a new version of the Combined Nomenclature that's been published, and it is applicable from the 1st of January 2023. The CN forms the basis of the declaration of goods, the customs declaration of goods at importation and exportation, and of course, when there are intra-union trade statistics at stake. You also know that this commodity codes, these CN codes, they determine the rate at which customs duty applies and how the goods are treated for statistical purposes. And it is because of this that the CN is a vital working tool in business for businesses and for the member states' customs administrations. So what are the changes that were newly introduced? Well, we will start with a high-level look so that you can kind of understand the type of products that are changing. We're then going to open the spreadsheet and we're going to have a closer look at what actually changed. And I'll also tell you how to read these changes. So step one, what are the CN codes that are newly introduced? Well, there is 1006, rice. Now, 1006 itself is not new. Rice is always 1006. So it is the granular detail, the later numbers that are coming, the subheadings, etc., the tariff codes that make the difference. As you know, the CN can only change digits 7 and 8. It cannot modify digits 1 to 6. Therefore, the change that is coming is happening at the latter end at codes 7 and 8. You also know that there are some codes which are newly introduced and others deleted. Again, we're referring only to digits 7 and 8. And that change happens in apricots, cherries, and peaches under 0809. That's why I say with this information, you know where the change is as regards to the heading, but you don't know what exactly is the change. So apricots, cherries, peaches, plums, which one? Which one is affected here? We'll have to have a look. But remember, we are changing in 1006. So this is where we're newly introducing something that wasn't there. So a species of rice, for example, and that we're introducing and newly some whilst deleting others. And that we'll find in apricots, but also in mineral substances in 2530. This goes on, slag, dross, etc. in 2619. We have their changes. Also further changes happen where codes are newly introduced and others deleted in these rare earth metals that you see here in 2805. 28 sees a second heading that is concerned, and that is 2846, compounds, inorganic and organic of rare metals. And then we've got some acids here in 2970. The list goes on. We see changes in articles of wood. So 4421. Then aluminium, where it's unwrought, that's 676.01. And so you can see between 44 and 76, there are no changes. So you see that changes are really minor. Then in 8462, we've got the machine tools, including presses for working material, for forging, hammering, and die forging, etc., machine tools, etc. So there's some changes in there we got to check out. 8485, machine for additive manufacturing, that's your 3D printing. Then 8504, electrical transformers, and then 8505, electromagnets, etc. also see some changes. So let's have a look. Now that we have this overview, let's have a look at the changes as they are portrayed in the legislation. Then we'll have a look at the changes in the correlation table that the member state, a particular member state, has issued. And then we will look through the changes in the correlation tables that the EU Commission has issued. So there are three ways we can get to the information. We'll look at the legislation. We kind of understand how that works. Then we'll look at the changes in the correlation table of one member state. So they have taken the changes and made their own correlation table, which I find really useful. And then we will look at the changes of the correlation tables of the EU Commission. So let's have a bit of a go. We'll click here. You can now see the official journal of the European Union. And here you have the 31 October 2022 version. And there you have the amending of Annex 1 of the 87 Council regulation. So this is a document that has over 1,000 pages, as you can see, as it contains the entire tariff. So let us just go through it a little bit. I'm sure you're already aware of this, but the main basic regulation is the one that you see here. It is from 87 and then amended as stated here every year. And Annex 1 has the combined nomenclature. And I'll just point out some of the things that are important here. And it is important for customs and global trade specialists to have a good understanding of how Annex 1 is structured, because it is not only the TARIC, the online working tool TARIC, that you need to consult here. So the EU document looks like this. It has two parts. Part 1, preliminary provisions, which has sections, as you can see here, and part 2, which is your schedule of customs duties. Now, in order to understand part 2, you've got to have a good understanding of part 1, because that lists, as you can see here, the general rules for the interpretation of the combined nomenclature, which, as you know, are your GIRs or GRIs. Then you have special rules concerning duties here, and then special provisions. And as you can see here, there are some products that have other rules that need to be considered. This is not new. This is the same every time. But it is the signs, abbreviation, and symbols that are really important, as well as the supplementary units. And why is that? Because the signs, abbreviation, and symbols, they tell you if a new product, how a new code has been introduced. The supplementary units are essential for customs clearance, and they need to be added to the customs declaration. So if you're not aware of the supplementary units, or you miss them out for some reason in your customs declaration, you might risk a underpayment, overpayment of duty. You may risk delays because you're not being able to clear the goods, or not able to submit the customs declarations. So once you understood these basic general rules, you then know that here we go into the various sections. This follows the WCO framework of section 1 and 2 and so on. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And this is, of course, then the chapters. And the chapters move into the headings, into the subheadings, and so on. So there you go. This is everything we already know. Nothing's really changed here. So we can go through, and this actually is the nomenclature, the structure of the tariff. And then you have a section 3, and this is the tariff annexes. And there you have the agricultural annexes. And as you know, as well as other pharmaceutical substances, which qualify for duty-free treatment. So if you're in pharma, you know these annexes 3 to 6 for sure. If you're in agriculture, you know annexes 1 and 2. Because this is where your additional duties get calculated, your sugar, your flour, etc. As you know, the EU follows a really complicated way of calculating these percentages of sugar and flour, and with additional codes work out the actual duty rate. So it's a bit complex. The one thing I want to stress is the signs, abbreviations, and symbols of the tariff. So this is, we have that here. And I don't want to go into everything again, but the key thing to remember is this one, is this star. This star, when you see that, it refers to new code numbers. And the box that you see here refers to code numbers used in previous year, but now at a different heading coverage, or at a different coverage. So we're looking for these stars and these kind of boxes. And if we were to look at, wood, for example, 4401, we would see the stars. So we're going to look at that in a moment. Right? And then here at the very end, you will see a qualification for coffins. And it's either a fiberboard or other. So there is now a split of more details when it comes to coffins. Now, I don't know how many coffins you import or export, but if it is a fiberboard, it's 4%. And if it's not, it's free. The next part we're going to look at is, what do the member states say? So let's click here. And we are going to open the correlation table between the versions of 2022 and 2023.